Welcome, dear viewers, to this segment where different stories, different experience meet. Still, we are having the three wonderful brothers, Brother Davis, Brother Abu Abdurrahman, and Brother Ali. And in the last episode, we spoke about things that made them to think about Islam or start reading about Islam and get interested in Islam. But today, inshallah ta'ala, we will go a little more into details. So coming back to you, Brother Davis, you was talking about Malcolm X, right, in the previous episode. What about Malcolm X? Can you explain to me and tell me about him and the viewers?
Yes, so briefly, to say who Malcolm X was, for me, he was the most influential American Muslim that existed. And many people converted because of his influence. But a brief history about him is that he was a Christian growing up, and then he became a criminal, and that was very important in his history and as part of reading his autobiography. That he had this criminal element about him. He robbed people. He was a pimp and things like that. And because of that, he ended up going to prison, I believe, for 12 years. And it was when he was in prison that he was introduced to the Nation of Islam. And once out of prison, he became a spokesperson for the Nation of Islam. Now, the Nation of Islam was not the true Islam, but it did have bits and pieces of it. So while he was a spokesperson, that went on, and then he had a rift within the leadership. And during that rift, he ended up somehow getting introduced to what we know as Al-Islam, what the true Islam is. And during that time, he was an American spokesperson, during the Civil Rights Movement. And the Arab leaders, they all knew who he was because they identified themselves as being Muslim. They said, who is this Muslim guy? And so they invited him to, that's when he was able to make Hajj. And on the Hajj, he was able to see the different races mixing. So at this time in the 60s, it was the heightened time of segregation between black and white people. So when he went on Hajj, he was able to see people from all races intermingling with each other in one love, worshiping one God, not one person over the other. And that's pretty much the gist of his story.
I see. So mainly he was also influential, and he was like standing up for the rights as well. And
yes.
That's why people start listening to him. And as you said, he was a good speaker. He was like a spoken person
yes.
On behalf of the Nation of Islam at the first, but later on he was talking about the real Islam.
Yes.
What about you, Brother Malik Abu Abdurrahman? What exactly made you really attractive, or Malcolm X attracted you?
He was like me. He was very relatable in history. He was from where I'm from. He's from Detroit. Back when he was back with the Nation of Islam, like the brother said, there was heightened racial issues. And that's something that's very, very prominent in African American history. That's something that we all relate to. For me, reading his speeches and how he was very passionate and didn't back down in the face of opposition from the people who were against African Americans at that time. And then what really struck me was his courage once he was able to make Hajj, because part of the doctrine of the Nation of Islam is that they classified all non-black Americans as devils, shayateen. So when he went to Hajj and he saw white Muslims, blonde hair, blue-eyed, he began to question the doctrine that he was taught back in America. And when he finally learned the truth, it was immediate. He switched. So for me, I really can appreciate and find to be very, a strong character, a person that is on a path, and when they see the truth, they automatically can go toward it with very little hesitation.
And that's really interesting, that something you said, that once he went to Hajj, where Allah Almighty really guided him,
yes.
that he sees and realized that it's not only certain color of
exactly.
a certain background of people.
Right.
You will find all kind of nationalities,
right.
From white and black and yellow and brown and all these people, and they are all there to worship on God.
Exactly.
So this is what made him that he think again, he rethink about whatsoever going on, back in his country, and then he started reading about Islam?
For me, one of the biggest aspects of Islam is your niyyah. So to see him just make that about face and go the opposite direction shows, for me, purity of intention. He was actually searching for the truth, and not just happy to be in the high status and fame and things like this.
MashaAllah. And this is I think an advice for myself and all the brothers and the viewers, that follow the truth. Don't follow the fame, don't follow the money, don't follow the wealth and whatsoever. Just follow the haqq, the right and true path. What about Brother Ali? Now, what we understand from both brothers here, that they are, they got attracted to a personality. But is there any idea about yourself? Like, is there an idea or something that you was attracted to?
Well, just picking up on the last comment from Brother Malik.
Malik.
Searching for the truth. I was searching for the truth when I was young, and I went to university to study philosophy because I thought this is where I'm going to find the truth. At that time, I was really an atheist. I didn't believe in God, and I thought the truth came through science and through logic.
I will let you to complete here, but you said something very important, that you was an atheist.
I wasn't atheist.
You grew up as an atheist, or you just grew up in a normal family? And
I grew up, even my mother taught me that the concept of God, for example, was something invented by people to explain things that they couldn't understand. And we get understanding through learning, through science, through logic, through these kind of these kinds of processes, and that everything else, religion is superstition.
For you?
Yeah.
Okay. This was
and I bought into this. So this is what I believed. But still, I was searching for the truth, but looking in the area of logic and science.
Okay.
So this is why I studied philosophy at university. But something really mystified me, that we had one professor of logic who really was highly intelligent. It was like a super brain. When you discussed with him, you just felt the knowledge and the intelligence coming off him. And yet, he was a practicing religious person, and even we had one segment about God. He taught us about God, and I couldn't understand. This is something I couldn't understand this. I thought maybe he had some kind of psychological defect or something, that he needed God to give him comfort or whatever. So I just put it to one side.
Okay.
But later on, when I started thinking about Islam, then I remembered this professor, and it kind of made sense to me. Even though he wasn't Muslim, he believed in God. He believed in the one God, and he was a professor of logic. So something there started to make sense to me.
Okay, so at that time you used to think that the one who is following religion basically is just a useless or a hopeless person, that he is attaching himself with the Creator or something like that. But amazingly, that as you mentioned previously, that you read about Islam, you read about Quran, you got the information that the Quran was unchanged and it never got touched from 1,400 and more plus years. And that, made you to rethink, your the whole thing about yourself. And we'll shift to Brother Wendell. Now we will, inshallah ta'ala, will talk about the story, because now here is the sensitive thing. You read about Islam, you convinced now about Islam, you grew up as a non-Muslim, you want to accept Islam. There is now a reaction of a family members, there is a reaction of people around you, reaction of your co-workers and all these people. And me, actually, I really would like to know all these things, and even the viewers would like to know about all these information, what exactly happened, and all these, the action, we can call it, action movie, but not really, but sometimes it happens. But inshallah ta'ala, we will continue in the next episode, and I also ask the viewers to wait for us with the next episode until we'll just move to the next segment. So stay with us, inshallah.